I think the last time that I truly loved an iPhone, we were still not even reviewing them. Apple's iPhone 4 was such a dramatic leap from anything else out there that it got me to switch. The design was bold, the Retina display was fantastic, but what really sold me on it was the camera. See, in 2010, smartphone cameras were terrible, especially for video. The iPhone 4 was the first to take this seriously, so much that some of the photos and 720p footage that I have of my children is still looking great today. Trusting any device with your memories is a big deal. I don't think I ever reached that level of confidence with an Android device until the Galaxy S6 a whopping 5 years later. And then the tables actually turned. I mean, surely iPhones owned video, but when it came to photography, that was more Android territory. And if we're honest, I mean, the last 3 generations of Pixel have had the iPhone pretty much playing catch up until now. This is the iPhone 11 Pro, what Apple dubs as Pro cameras, Pro display, Pro performance. And true, lately the word Pro gets tossed around a lot, but this is the first time that I can actively say that I don't just trust an iPhone with my memories. I also do so with some of my workload. Yes, I know that's shocking to hear from a guy like me, which is one of the main reasons why it took so long to test this phone. The last time that I felt this way about an iPhone was 9 years ago, so bear with me as I explain to you why. I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocket Now, and this is our review of the iPhone 11 Pro, pretty much 2 months later. I think this year it's like if Apple is finally listening to consumers. The iPhone was too expensive, so Apple dropped the price on the iPhone 11. The higher tier variants didn't have great battery life, so we got thicker iPhones. And even in that mix, I feel that this small iPhone 11 Pro is the toughest sell of the bunch. I mean, why would you choose it if the 11 costs less and is good enough, and then the Pro Max just goes all out? It's even the most expensive flagship of its size, and yet this is the device that I chose for my personal needs. So let me begin this video by explaining to you the things that I like about this phone, which are the reasons why. I carry 2 phones on a daily basis, and the iPhone is always more of a tool for me. If I'm commuting around the city and need a phone that's easy to handle with one hand, this is it. Now, don't get me wrong, I love phablets for media consumption, but if I have to respond to your text on the go, I'll most likely drift to the iPhone. Design was never my cup of tea with the 10 or 10s, and yet the 11 Pro has really grown on me. The matte finish handles fingerprints well, and then the reflections from the stainless steel frame and the camera hump give it this added touch of elegance. It'll still wobble on a table unless you use a case, and my choice remains this tan finish from Muzhou's leather cases. I'll link to them in the description in case you're interested. Apple made a huge deal about the changes to their display, and yet this is one of those things that's really hard to portray on video. That 2 million to 1 contrast ratio is no joke, and it's one of the reasons I picked this phone over the 11. Colors seem to pop a lot more than even its predecessors, and sharpness is just amazing. Like seriously, don't take my word for it, go to a store and check it out if you haven't. And even if this technically is the same display on the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, Apple's tuning adds an added punch that I've come to prefer. And then the combination with these stereo speakers only enhances the experience consuming content. The Apple Pencil, which separated the Pro from the amateur. A direct bow to the Samsung Galaxy. Now, you'll appreciate this more when you look at the results from this camera system. No, Cupertino wasn't the first with 3 focal lengths to the market, but boy have they gotten this right. Remember how I said that I'd rarely trust an iPhone for photos before? Well, that changed this year. See, what I care about most when taking a shot is versatility, and then second it would be that the phone depicts the moment with accuracy, and usually switching focal lengths on other phones poses a problem. On the iPhone 11 Pro, that is not a problem. It's actually a completely different story, at least in daylight. You'll get the exact same color, detail, and sharpness. Apple has really improved their HDR, and the addition of Deep Fusion in a recent software update has taken that to a whole new level. Sadly, this isn't on every scenario. Once you switch the lights off, you do get a night mode, but not for the ultra-wide. And then for the primary and the telephoto, you're at Apple's mercy if you get any option to control. Even the amount of shutter speed available depends on what Apple thinks you need, and that's not always great. Some of the results even beat the pants off the Pixel 4 in the comparison that I did recently, but not all of them. A similar story happens with portraits. You do get the option to switch the effects around or completely off, which will be necessary sometimes. See, Apple's attention to detail and skin tones is seriously epic, but the treatment of hair is not. You will have to decide which result works best for you. Now, where I have to finally say bravo to Cupertino is in the selfie department. We finally get a wider crop for these, and with fabulous results in most cases. I'll even prefer the selfie portraits over the Pixel because I feel that it renders more natural skin tones so long as you have enough light. Sadly, no, there is no night mode for selfies just yet. But then the praise continues with video. iPhones are still, hands down, the best smartphone video cameras in the market. It comes to a point where people can't even tell that certain handheld shots that I've made in reviews came from using an iPhone at 4K at 60 frames per second. In the past, I'd use a gimbal to enhance the shots, but you can leave that at home now. Stabilization on this iPhone is crazy epic, and the liberty to switch between focal lengths in real time only makes the phone that much more useful.
So what exactly are we doing here?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, the only Achilles heel left on previous iPhones was selfie video, but that also got solved. No other phone can do 4K at 60 frames per second from the selfie camera, and also offer the levels of dynamic range that we get from this phone. Stabilization is what I'd call good enough, so maybe you might still want to carry that gimbal for those. Now, probably what's most shocking is that I can spend intense amounts of time shooting video or taking photos, and this phone does not bog down. Apple's A13 Bionic doesn't just look good in benchmarks, I do have to praise it in real-world use. And then the rest of the internals are on point with most of the standards of 2019, but not all. We'll come back to that later. That said, if you ask the average iPhone user, they don't care about that as much as they do about the ecosystem. And Apple does this so well that they make it really hard for people to want to switch. I edit all my videos on a Mac, I use an iPad Pro for scripting and meetings, the Apple Watch is my weapon of choice for fitness, and man, these AirPods Pro are surprisingly better than I expected. Surely I don't need my phone to be an iPhone to still use most of these, but features like AirDrop alone are enough for me to want to use one. But here's the thing, the last time that I drank Kool-Aid was around 15 years ago, so don't worry, this is not a fanboy piece. There are reasons why I'm mixed about this phone, and it starts with the battery life. I mean, I'm mixed because it's not bad, it's not great. You'll end the day fine, and it's actually the first time that happens with the smaller iPhone, but you'll end it in fumes, sadly. At least you get a fast charger in the box, finally. The second reason is really iOS. See, when Apple launched iPadOS, most of us were cheering because we felt that it was the end of an era for the boring iPhone launcher, but no. Sadly, most of the features remained iPad exclusive. I'm not sure if Apple has even noticed that this launcher is a crazy 12 years old, and still I'm mixed because it does handle itself well. Stupid little updates like the swipe functionality on the keyboard with multilingual support have made one-handed use only better. And sure, I'm not a fan of how many steps I have to follow to make a phone call, but at least the phone has been doing it without stutters after the most recent update. Because yes, that leads to the third reason why I'm mixed, and it's really how buggy iOS 13 has been. From Face ID not working until you turn the phone off, to the phone dropping frames between home screens, which just didn't make sense on all this power, to the fact that sometimes the phone would just heat up for no particular reason until you, again, turned it off. Made no sense at all. It's really not until the recent version of iOS that things have gotten better, so if that's been your problem, make sure you do the software update. And really, the fourth reason is one that I never thought I'd care about, and it's the death of 3D touch. I mean, haptic touch just doesn't cut it at times. You find yourself pressing hard on things expecting a reaction, and the latency is just really bad. Last but not least, let me throw in something that I actually don't like about this phone, and it was my bill at the time that I bought it. I paid an insane $1,249 because if there's one thing that's not pro about this phone is the storage. Dear Apple, 4K video takes up a lot of storage, and so do photos, plus games, etc. This is the most expensive flagship of its range with the least amount of starting storage, so I had to go for the 256GB option. And don't even get me started about AppleCare Plus, which I do recommend you get, but that is now more expensive. I mean, break the front of this phone and it's $329, break the back and it's a crazy $550, so you can't avoid this cost if you cough up the new $200 price tag, which covers 2 accidental replacements for a much smaller fee. About the only good thing is that now you can pay it month to month for $10, but that still doesn't make sense if you do the math. To conclude, I think the only question left on this video is what is so pro about this new iPhone, and the answer actually depends. Watch my recent comparison of the iPhone 11 Pro versus the Galaxy Note 10 to dive into more details on that, as I feel that the Note 10 is more for the office professional that needs to get things done. My case is very different. I make videos for a living, so if I would need a phone to assist me in my creative professional work, then yes, I'd pick an iPhone 11 Pro over any other device. The color accuracy of the display is ideal for photo edits. The camera system is seriously the crutch that I use as a backup for my videos. The microphone I use for the Pocketnow Daily is powered by a Lightning connector. Having an iPhone for me has been seriously a necessity for at least 3 generations, so yes, it does win the Pro moniker for me. Now, necessity is enough to keep a phone in my bag at all times, and that's it. And yet, this is the first time that I find myself using an iPhone more than ever before. So much so that it takes me back to my times with the iPhone 4. The last time that I trusted an iPhone with my most important things was almost a decade ago, and that's actually how I feel here. The iPhone 11 Pro is seriously excess if you were to judge it only by its price, and yet I can't remember the last time that I loved an iPhone so much. Apple needed 3 generations to perfect what it began with the iPhone 10, and I think that it's finally time for me to say that this is the coolest iPhone that I've ever used, hands down. What about you? What do you think about the iPhone 11 Pro? Chime in the comments and also let us know what you think about the setup. This is actually our new studio that still needs a lot of work. There is a lot of echo, but you'll see improvements over time. While you're at it, follow us on social media and subscribe to our channels for more videos like this one. Also follow me on my personal handles to see me play with these phones. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.